I think the problem is Ali Velshi is here. That we don't know what democracy is.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like there's an ignorance around. I was talking to my students today. I was like, there are people that don't know there are three co-equal branches of government. They don't know how they operate together. They don't realize what the president actually does and does not do. They don't know that their state legislature probably has way more impact on their lives than anything the president can do. I've had a caller call up blaming the gas on Biden as if like, okay, what about the oil companies? What's their responsibility? You know, it's like, I don't think civically we
Correct.
know enough.
That's
So when you say
exactly it.
democracy and voting rights, it
Yeah,
goes over
correct.
people's heads, because when you say democracy is on the verge of going away, explain, Ali Velshi, what that means.
Well, so I think democracy is a cactus, right? It's not a plant that needs a great deal of your input and care, but it needs something. You can't give your cactus nothing. I mean, every now and then it's got to get a drip of water or so, and everyone's got to sit in the sun. That's how we have to think about democracy. It is not the vote. There are lots of countries that have the vote. Iran has the vote. Russia has the vote. Lots of countries have a vote, and they're not democracies. But it is all of these points in which we as citizens take part in what we do. So you talked about your state legislature being more important. Well, your local school board is where your books get banned, right? I mean, we're banning books. We're banning books. There's it's banned books week, by the way, right now. And we've been banning books for a very, very long time. And it's all the same stuff. It's all prudishness. And I don't like my kids reading about queer and gay. And I don't want them feeling uncomfortable about Black people because maybe they were enslaved at one point, but it had nothing to do with me. My kids didn't do it. Or I don't want, there's sexual content here. I don't want my kids, or there's a patriarchy and there's like Handmaid's Tale. There's a system, and I don't want people thinking that the system's bad. It's all the same stuff. But all of this is about critical thinking. So it's civics education. You're 100% right. And it's critical thinking. It's being able to watch the news and say, that sounds like a load of crap. But I only know it's a load of crap because I've been watching some other news or reading some other things, or I've got a critical thinking skills, and I know what the branches of government are supposed to do. Because you watch what Donald Trump did for 4 years, a whole lot of people didn't know there was anything wrong with it because they didn't know what right looked like. They sort of thought they did, but they didn't realize that, oh, you're not allowed to do that. And it goes on to this day. He wants classified documents. He wanted 100 of them back. And the 2 judges appointed by Trump and 1 appointed by Obama said, you don't get this stuff back. It's classified. It's important national security. You just don't get to get it back. But now it's coming down on him, Karen. It's coming down on him in the Mar-a-Lago case and with Tish James, who is a racist, as he says. He called her a racist. I was very puzzled when that happened. My brain just stopped for a few minutes.
Well, you just call somebody what you are. You know, that's the old schoolyard tactic.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
What are you? You know, it's the old schoolyard
Tish James
tactic.
a lot of things. Racist wouldn't have been in the top sort of 98 of them.
Well, what is racism? See, I mean, we're having to examine all of that. So to him, racism is anybody coming after me is racist if they're Black.
That's exactly
if
right.
they're Black, right? Because
Yeah,
it's got to be racial. Because that's Black. All Black people hate white people. That's
it was the strangest thing. But the problem is it works a little bit for him, right? I mean, there are a lot of people who think there's nothing wrong with him. His polling numbers are actually pretty steady. People don't give up on him. They don't say, this just seems weird. I'm a conservative. I think there should be smaller government. I'm not sure we should have a $15 minimum wage. Whatever you like as a conservative, that's not it. They just keep voting for him. It's very strange.
You know, speaking of polling numbers and how consistent they are for Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis is going to be the presumptive competitor nominee, whatever we want to call it. You know, on our show, we covered a little bit of the fraudulent, migrant crisis that he created himself that just happened recently. From your perspective or what you've been seeing, what has been the reaction? Is that going to move the needle? Is that something where the base or that Trumpian MAGA base is moving over to DeSantis because they like a trolling prank or whatever human rights violation of what it is?
There are people who do, and what we don't register enough of in this country, because we've been having such a BS-y immigration conversation for so many years, is that migration is the way of the world, right? Look around you, left and right in these boxes here. Everybody's a migrant, or everybody's parents are migrants, or great-grandparents or grandparents. Migration's the way of the world. Asylum is something we've signed on to. There's a convention that we've signed on to that people show up and they don't get in for free. They show up and they get an ankle bracelet or they get a court date and they go there. And if you come from Central America or South America to the United States as a refugee, you're very unlikely to be able to stay. Somewhere above 90% of people get rejected. There's a whole process. But until that's over, they are not criminals. They were never criminals in the first place. and they're entitled to respect. We're shuttling them around the country. I don't know. I kind of think between abortion and this brazenly awful treatment of human beings, there got to be some Republicans out there who are saying this is not for me. But I don't know.
You don't live in the real world, Ali Velshi.
That's quite possible.
You don't live. No, because here's what's crazy. There are people who speak Spanish who think that what is happening is correct. When I knew when we had babies in cages and people snatching people's children away from them.
You thought that'd be the end, right? You thought that'll be
no plan. That I thought that there would be this massive uprising of people saying this is outrageous, doesn't define us, and we were pretty silent. I mean, not me and you and Cena, but as a nation, it wasn't outrageous.
Yeah, no, you're
There's
right.
still children that are not.
We're waiting to get outraged about. Like, I just don't know what we're waiting for. It's like it's Handmaid's Tale now. What are we waiting for?
And to your point, I think this is why democracy is in a problem state. I've been with everything that's been happening, and I've been reading about the history of Iran and how many ups and downs and changes they've had over time. And every kind of empire goes through these changes, and they don't become the superpower for very long. I guess this is maybe for both of you, do we feel like this is kind of the downward slope of the American experiment, and we'll have to have a reboot in 50, 80 years, maybe sooner? I don't know. I think it's a slow decline. I don't think it's going to happen overnight.
I'm more optimistic, Sina. I actually think it can be fixed. And I think people just have to be shaken and awakened. And there've been little bits of it going on for the last few years. George Floyd and the police shootings. Remember, people used to say they don't shoot people for doing nothing. Like cops don't. They just don't.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we got video on phone, and it's like, oh, lots of people get shot or die for doing nothing. And I think we've had an awakening around that. We had an awakening around Me Too. We had an awakening around the fact that nobody thought Roe v. Wade would go. We have an awakening on the fact that we thought gay marriage was settled, and it's not settled. So I think there's an awakening, and I think we still have the vote, unlike other places, and there's not missiles raining down on us like there is in Ukraine. So we should just go out there and use the vote. And you can vote Republican or you can vote Democrat, whatever suits you, but you should know what the issues are and vote in the interest of the country ahead of your own personal interests. So you can vote. I haven't seen a lot of Republicans out there who I think should be worthy of a vote when you are seeing democracy in decline, but there are some. I'm
going to be a good Rio co-host and say that Karen's face during your answer.
You're looking at me like
the suspicious face.
It's not going to work.
Certainly suspicious face.
Well, not suspicious. I have the benefit of sitting on this program Monday through Friday, talking to regular people. It's not a silo or a bubble, right?
Yeah.
And we get all kinds of folk that come through. And what I knew in 2015 going into 2016 is that Trump could win when everybody was telling me I was crazy, because what I understood was it was not about Republicans and Democrats, and it wasn't about Hillary and her emails. There was something else going on in this country that has been going on in this country from day one. And we have never eradicated nor dealt with that. And that is banned books week, which I didn't know until you just said it, speaks to this thing that I think we're not paying attention to. It's not about the issues, Ali Velshi and Sina Ghaznavi. It's about the soul of this country. And I think that this experiment has to break because it was founded and fomented in blood, thievery, denigration of whole human beings, whether we're talking about the indigenous people or the Africans brought here in chains. And we've never fixed the foundation. The foundation is cracked. And I don't know if anybody here is an architect or a builder, but I do know a little something that building a whole house on a cracked foundation will be problematic. And it will not stand.
The discussion of this very thing, 1619 project, is what got most people thinking about banned books, right? All Nicole Hannah-Jones did is say, hey, you might want to pay attention to this date here. And I remember when I talked to her about it, I was so grateful. It's like, wow, you've given me such an interesting perspective. I don't have to agree with it or not. I didn't even know this stuff. And that's how I took it. Who knew that the whole world was going to lose their minds?
Yeah.
About telling you that enslaved people showed up here in 1619 and built a lot of the stuff that you're just talking about. So I hear you, Karen. I think maybe there might be something between a very big gut renovation and a complete breaking down and rebuilding that we can achieve. But we've got to take it seriously.
I don't know, builders out there. Do you build on top? Do you keep building on top of a cracked foundation?
Get the
I don't
leading
think you
power of
do.
pizza if you do. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know, but I think you can't. I think we got a lot of good here. I think we got a lot of good, and we got a lot of growth. And we have to think about that more perfect union, getting toward it. I might just be a cockeyed optimist.
you are.
Because I don't know
You
what
are,
else.
and I love you. I love you, but you're one that's smart and well read. So we're gonna keep having a conversation because even I don't reject the 1619 project. I reject grounding blackness with enslavement. When we have thousands of years of blackness, and I'm going to bring Howard French into this conversation, Born in Blackness, the latest book, which talks about not just as we laid the queen to rest, how the wealth of black people built the entirety of Europe, Portugal, Spain,
100%. Thank you.
France,
100%.
and
Yeah.
Great Britain. And so we can't even start with 1619.
People are
We got to go back.
lamenting the end of the empire. It's like, this was a horrible freaking thing for people who were gone. Horrible, but really good for you. Very, very enriching.
Yes. So, I mean, we need to have all of those conversations and not as a finger wagging, a shame, because the truth of the matter,
just truth.
Listen, I wasn't enslaved. You weren't there for the partition. Cena wasn't there before the shot. You know, it's like we weren't.
Totally
We
right.
all have roots that we need to understand. 100%. And it's not like an indictment when my people didn't enslave your people. No, but we need to talk about all of
100%. That's why I don't like banning books. But you can not ban books. Folks still have to read them.
Yeah.
And by the way, people who read books tend not to ban them.
True.
So what do we do with Kanye?
I was just gonna ask about that. I was just gonna say,
come on, Ali. What do we do?
Is he banning them? He's not. He's just not reading them. I think
he says they're like Brussels sprouts. They're disgusting.
Which,
he doesn't want
if you fry them, they're delicious.
Well, not fry. You got to saute them. We don't fry them. We put little onions and some balsamic glaze. Brussels sprouts are the bomb. I don't know what who's making his Brussels sprouts. He's probably got some potato farmer making his. I'm gonna talk about Kanye later. So Ali Velshi, when you get up in the morning, what is the one topic that you're most concerned about?
I am concerned about the human condition, right? I spent a lot of time over in Ukraine, and I did a lot of digging into how people are making bad choices about their governments all over the world. They are voting people into power who are taking their rights away, which strikes me as the opposite of what we have been wanting to do for, give me a number, 250 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. So I'm a little puzzled about the state of the human condition, and I'm about the world, right? We have to fix these things. We got to fix the climate too. So I really like everybody to become a better critical thinker. And I try that in my work, right? I try to come out there and look at arguments. I try to look at other people's sides of arguments, and I try to book that onto my show to say, how do we bring each other together and have salient arguments, important debates with people of good faith? And the problem we've got today is that you can't just book somebody on your show with an argument that's not one you share without understanding whether they're a good faith actor, right? There are good faith people who want to debate policies, and you're right in saying these elections today are generally speaking not about policy. I would like to go back to debating things in good faith with people. And I worry I saw it going away in America, and I realize as I've traveled around, it's going away in a lot of places. Lies and disinformation overtake debate and pluralism. And so that writ large is what worries me.
Writ large, one of my least favorite phrases. I don't know why it bothers me. I don't know why writ large. Why does writ large? But I have to go to therapy.
We should talk.
It's highly unspecific.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ali,
that bothers me. Writ small, I'm looking for my eggs and toast in the morning.
Ali, one of the things I've always loved about you is you've been able to break down financial issues in the economy so well, and it's Thrive Thursday here, and interest rates are going up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been reading about this Volcker thing where he broke the back of inflation, but then you also see it's like, how much can the Fed do? How much impact can it have? I guess, I would love to hear from you. Are you as optimistic on the economy as you are on the other parts that we've just been talking about here today?
I'm worried.
Yeah.
If you live paycheck to paycheck, you're the working poor or you're middle class, and you don't have extra money at the end of the month. You now have money that's worth 8% less than it was a
Ooh.
year ago, right? So you're getting 8% less. If you have a budget of $1,000 a month, you can't do anything about your budget, but you get your stuff you go to buy is more expensive. Then maybe you're in a position to think about buying a house. It's now over 6% interest for a mortgage rate. That's double what it was a year ago. So on a $250,000 house, that's $450 extra dollars per month. You want to buy a car, you need a car. Car prices are all up because of inflation. Used or new, car rates are way up. So if you're on the edge, inflation is a tax on you. And now the Fed's trying to fight that with the only tool it has, because the Fed has no other tools. It's like a car that has gas and a brake. That's all. It doesn't have a steering wheel, doesn't have gears. It's got gas and a brake. So it's hitting the brakes now. And you're still paying high prices. And now your interest rate's high. So you've gone into hock because you can't afford these prices. So now you're running a balance on your credit card, or you've got this car that you bought and your interest rates are going up. So you're getting it on both sides. We're in that moment where you've still got high inflation and now your interest rates are high. At some point, the Fed will break the back of inflation. The problem is they're so eager to do it, and they should be, that as they push and push and push, and by the way, the Central Bank of Canada is doing it, UK is doing it, Europe's doing it, they're all doing exactly the same thing, it could trigger a recession. Then you got another problem on your hands. If you're one of those people who is just making it, your job could actually disappear. So we could be in for a rough couple of years or not. This could work.
How do we know that we're not in a recession right now?
You don't generally know, but our economic growth still shows to be quite positive. It's all rear view mirror stuff, right? You always get everything a month delayed or 3 months delayed. Jobs are still being created, wages are still going up, and economic growth is still present. So none of those things are indicators of a recession, but it could be changing as we talk. The hike in the Fed yesterday could have caused a whole lot of people to say, not buying that car, not buying that fridge, not taking that trip, not going out for dinner, and a recession starts in the blink of an eye.
I'm going out tonight. I don't care.
Do it.
I was just going to say, everybody in this room is privileged, right? Yeah. So I feel like there's a bubble here where, I care because my stocks are trash right now, but I'm a dividend investor. So now there's an opportunity maybe to buy some stocks that I didn't want to afford. So, and if I believe these companies going to be around, blue chippers and the dividend aristocrats, then maybe this is a good time to buy. I just sold something because of spiritual reasons, something that was doing really well for me. I just sold it because I'm like, I can't be invested in this company. So I divested myself. But what's the responsibility of these corporations that for the last 7 years have seen record, we've seen trillionaires now made in the last 7 years with, record prices in the stock market. I was saying to my class, I was like, people complain about the gas prices, but if ExxonMobil decided tomorrow to drop the price to $1, they could not really lose a beat. Yes, they have shareholders, but do that for humanity, because you have benefited the last 10 years and also threw oil in the ocean and messed up our wildlife and did a lot of other really negative things. This is a give back. Give us $1. You could do that. The government doesn't have to do anything to make that happen. And that would single-handedly drive all of the gas prices down, because competition is a thing, right? Supply and demand. What are the responsibilities of the corporations to participate, since they participated in the wealth?
I mean, they're still participating in the polluting of the earth. I mean, I'm going to grow a head of hair like Cena's before what you just said happens. We have to talk about rethinking. Talk about taking down a broken building.
I'm having deja vu. What does this mean?
We would have to rethink our entire system. And there are some who argue that we actually should rethink our entire capitalist system. But I think that might even be harder than rethinking our democratic system at the moment. These companies and having responsibility to somebody other than their shareholders they don't have responsibility to land. They don't seem to have responsibility to their workers. Some good companies have responsibilities to their workers and not polluting the land, but that's as far as it goes. The concept of companies having large scale responsibility to those around them and the country and the world is not something I'm holding my breath for. Patagonia has done it.
I was going to say, but could we, the people, you're getting back to everybody should be registered to vote, which I agree with. Everyone should vote. Less than 50% of us actually do show up on a regular basis. We should all vote. But what if we all pick 10 companies, the most egregious, and systematically and
boycotted them?
Yeah. And say, okay, you have been harmful, Wells Fargo, to black wealth.
Yeah.
everybody divest from Wells Fargo.
Yeah,
Everybody
but you've seen how that. I mean, it sort of works
doesn't.
in South Africa, but it's hard to do. People.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a movement, and you have to have charismatic leaders in those movement who can draw a line between A and B. I remind you, Martin Luther King died talking about while he was there to deal with a sanitation worker strike. You actually have to have people who say it's worth it for you to put yourself on the line or be inconvenienced or do something. We just live in this society where we don't think that through. I would love that. I would love to have running lists of companies you should support and shouldn't support because of X, Y, and Z, including voting rights and gay rights and what they have done for Black people and what they have done for the world and the environment and for poor people. It's a good thing to think about. We're not there. It's not easy for somebody to pick up their phone and say, should I get my gas from here or there? Right? They just think about the price.
Right. Oh, I don't know.
There's some thinking, by the way, that this could move. And where we saw it a little bit was in Indiana with gay rights, with North Carolina with trans rights, and in Georgia with voting rights, where we saw some companies take little stands. Like we're not going to donate money to you if you're an election denier or you're trying to suppress voting rights. There are moments of it showing up around the country. It's not there yet, but there are little examples of it.
866-801-8255. Sina Ghaznavi is here. You can follow him at Sina Now. Ali Velshi is here. You can follow him at Ali, A-L-I, Velshi, B-E-L-S-H-I. As we are heading to elections, and the reason why I didn't answer your question, Sina, is because I'm going to wait to see what 2022 brings, right? Because everything that Ali Velshi says on its surface seems like it makes sense, right? Which is what we want to see happen. 2022 will tell us whether or not we really want to see change. I'm looking in Florida. I'm looking in Georgia. I want to see if Charles Booker in Kentucky makes some waves, even Crystal Matthews in South Carolina, because I feel like, there's a bunch of rich people making decisions, which is the way we all see folk that insider trade, some of the wealthiest people, in Congress from Nancy Pelosi on, and I'm gonna name names because they're out of touch. They're not in the streets, right? They're not living the experience of the average person. So people don't feel connected to them, but yet we don't vote. So by not voting, this is what you get. And they don't feel any fear whatsoever that they're going to lose their seat until they do, like AOC did in New York.
Yep.
I can't make a decision about whether we have a future as a nation until 2022. And if the House or the Senate goes to the Republicans, or both, I think we're done.
We may not have a 2022. I tell people this might be the most important election for democracy. Now, if we get past this one, then 2022 becomes the most important, election for democracy.
2024.
2024 becomes the most important. I mean, you're right. These are really, 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 really important. I'm 100% with you on this.
Ali, wait. Oh, sorry. Are we going to a break?
No, go ahead.
No. Ali, I just on the Pelosi came up, and I gotta ask again. Just about the financial stuff when it comes to Congress. Nancy Pelosi has made so much money. Her husband, rather. Let me be specific. Her husband has made so much money. How
drunk driving?
How do you stop? How do you stop and make a wall between these Congress people?
It's easy. They've got the weakest laws governing them I've ever seen. It's just easy. I mean, we know what insider trading looks like elsewhere, trading on non-public information. We know it's a crime. It's, by the way, until about 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't even an enforceable crime. It became a thing that a number of prosecutors decided we're going to go after people because it used to be thought of as a victimless crime, right? Mm-hmm. I don't even call it a crime for members of Congress. You just can't do this. You can't trade on non-public information. A stock goes up based on information you have. You can't do that. It is fundamentally wrong to do this, and they can fix that for themselves. They put the stupid Stock Act in, which means you have to report it after a fact. So if you do something really shameful, it becomes public. You shouldn't be able to do it in the first place.
Now someone made an ETF, right? They made an ETF of all the choices they're making.
Correct. I think that there are ways to do this. Those of us who work in financial news have rules about how we can trade. We cannot trade stocks in which we either have information or can have influence over by virtue of the reporting that we do. This is not complicated stuff. We sorted these rules out a long time ago. It is just bad for Congress, which often has a bad look itself, to be involved in this thing. There are lots of legitimate ways for wealthy people, because most of Congress is, generally speaking, pretty wealthy. There's lots of legitimate ways for them to make money. They should not be involved in trading stocks over which they have any influence or get information. It's as simple as that.
it's just they come out of a committee hearing, and before they even do the presser, they're like on the Robinhood account, filing a trade and submitting it.
Bad.
This is why I don't have any faith. And an average person like Martha Stewart, average person like Martha Stewart goes to jail. Regular person.
Who speaks for Martha?
That's a first. I haven't heard that one for a long time. Somebody speaking for Martha. That's impressive.
866-801-8255.